Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 52 of Humanity versus Insanity, the Crane Report. And my goodness me, the insanity is certainly ramping up from every quarter. So anybody watching from the Bullingdon Club or elsewhere, I hope you've put your pig's head away for the evening and that you can enjoy more mundane entertainment this evening. Although somehow I doubt that any of you would ever be watching this. This is just way too deep for you. Well, enough of David Cameron and his alleged sexual deviances. And I'm sure he's not the only one. Boris, George, and one or two others. But we'll leave that to the speculation. And we'll also run a book on whether or not the BBC decide that they are actually going to report news, or whether, of course, they are simply going to play the role of the state propaganda news agency. Well, I think we all know the answer to that. Well, for the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at the unfolding agenda and the manipulation of the agenda in the Middle East, the efforts to create Greater Israel through a proxy force known as ISIS, the Israeli Secret Intelligence Services, and looking at the created refugee/migrant crisis to fulfill a goal that was first mooted well over a century ago. Well, tonight we're going to carry on in a similar vein, because my guest tonight I had never heard of, never met until Saturday, when I was invited to speak at an event in Leeds, and in a remarkable venue. It was a former church that had been converted to a nightclub. And the first speaker of the day was a guy by the name of Dell. And he actually was only allocated, I think, about 40 minutes or so to speak. But as good fortune would have it, the second speaker that was scheduled for the event didn't show up. Apparently they'd broken down somewhere along the way. And so Dell had an opportunity to give an extended presentation, and he had his audience absolutely spellbound. And so at the end of the event, I asked him if he would be available to join me on Humanity versus Insanity this evening. So it's with great pleasure that I'm able to welcome Dell to the show. So Dell, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much for bearing with us this evening, because I'm sure, as many of our viewers are probably already aware, Skype has a major problem in the UK and its servers are down, and so we had to do some fancy footwork to be able to get our video link set up. So thanks very much, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you this evening.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, like I say, we only met each other the other day, so yeah, it's quite interesting times, and everything's been unveiled.
It sure is. And really what we're going to be talking about tonight, what we've been addressing over the past couple of weeks is, what's been occurring on the physical, empirical, material realm. And so looking at the, indisputable, verifiable facts, but also looking at the scripts that are unfolding here. But what we're going to do this evening with yourself is we're going to look at, take it to a deeper level. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the deep geopolitical esoterica that's playing out here. Now, this is a subject that certainly isn't on everybody's radar, Dell. So what was it that got you interested in looking at this issue?
Yeah, I mean, I woke up spiritually a good 6 years ago now. And I started to look at things and question things. And about 2-3 years after that, I began to get into I got awareness of the free man movement, but I also had awareness of the galactic and cosmic history of what's been going on Terra, on third dimensional Earth. It's fascinating how much information has been either hidden or buried, or most of it's in the catacombs at the Vatican. So the subject, it becomes interesting, and that's really how I got into it. And then I started to do more research, and people who gave me information, and I began to question it more, and I started to dig deep, just like yourself has, and then you begin to realize that everything is not what you see it as.
Exactly, and it's a bit of a shock, isn't it, the first time round, when you realize that everything you thought you knew is absolutely a crock of crap, basically.
Yeah, utter illusion. And what I then got into once I realized it's illusion, I thought, well, illusion's magic. And that's when I started to find out how about the courts work and priests and all the rest of it and black magic. And then that's when it became real interesting. And then a lot of this stuff then began to fit together as to why they do this ritualistic practice of ecclesiastical magic and how that all works. And then once I began to realize that, I could see through the illusion itself and how that affected humanity in terms of programming, especially in terms of trauma-based programming that's used today through multiculturalism, whether it's through the courts, whether it's through food, whether it's through chemtrailing. Doesn't matter what it's through, but humanity is constantly under attack.
And as you rightly made the observation on Saturday, we acquiesced to this by actually engaging in the process. And it's a system that absolutely requires us to willingly participate. And very few people either realize or have the courage to basically say, you know what, we're just not playing your game, and not engage with the system, period.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And there's many things that happen. But the key thing is, it all comes down to you've got essentially 5 ecclesiastical laws, the one that underpins all the others. But essentially, they're using trust, contract, estate, and property law. But mainly, the ecclesiastical was the main one because that underpins all the others. And once you get into that side of it, you begin to realize that your consent. So essentially, we have free dominion over our own souls to begin with. When people don't realize this, and they constantly need to get us into some kind of contract or some kind of obligation that they use, and they take whatever it is that we've really got from us and turn it and use it for themselves, selfish selves. So yeah, and most of it's to do is contract. And I keep telling people, best thing to do is no contract, no obligation, and actually start lending your energy to the beast itself. And cutting it off and start focusing more on yourself and people who are here to support you. And that's the best way that I can see getting out of this, and just putting positive thoughts out into the world, especially as and that will counteract whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Well, it's a start. I mean, as you know from my presentation on Saturday, I make the observation that actually that's an absolutely essential part of the process. But once you've been through the portal, if you like, once you've been through the learning process and seeing beyond the third dimensional construct, then the challenge is to come back into the world and apply that learning to actually engage in the process. But what I want to do is, we don't have obviously as much time as we might like to discuss this, and the purpose of our discussion this evening is to obviously draw people's attention to some areas that they might wish to take a look at for themselves. And so, really what we're trying to do is stimulate people's own curiosity. And, as I always say, don't take anything I say or you say at face value. It's a view that is being expressed, but ultimately it is each individual's responsibility to take absolute control of their own worldview and how they apply that. So I want to start by, I know this is jumping into your presentation a bit, but you focus very much on the Jesuits. And of course, this is a very controversial issue because a lot of people actually believe that it's the Rothschilds and the Zionists that are at the top of the pyramid. So you want to talk us through your perspective here. And I'm going to bring up one of your slides from the weekend in a second here. The Jesuits control the group of radical terrorists called ISIS. And your opening paragraph says, the Roman Catholic Church used to openly cause people they deemed as heretics, mostly the true followers of Christ, to be killed during the Dark Ages in their Inquisition. Now the Jesuits of Rome do it covertly by having the CIA and the US military train and arm the ISIS rebels to carry out their inquisition. So, talk us through this Jesuit agenda, Del.
Yeah, because this has been the issue with the Rothschilds. They're quite low down. You've got 13 powerful nobility bloodline families, such as the Medicis, the Palace of Savinis. You've got the Colonnas, the could keep on. There's loads of different powerful bloodline families, but there's main 13 ones, and they work with what's called with the arcane rite of Atlantis, and they also work with the top orders of the ecclesiastical black priesthood, and they're the ones who are at the top. But we can see. I know there's beyond that, but we're not getting into that tonight. That control this whole system, and so basically the Rothschild or the Red Shield, because it's not Roth, it's red means Red Shield. They basically work for the priesthood. So basically, they're servants of the priesthood. So what you was explaining about the crooks in action and U.S. military, they're what I call the front. But behind the front, you've got those that control the ones that are on the front line. And so what everybody's told in terms of mainstream programming is that these people out in front are causing all this, but actually behind all that, it's these particular groups that are more involved that actually start all this programming. And it's the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. And so they're masters in terms of magic, especially in terms of ritualistic programming. And so they use this at the top of the system. And I start off with what's called the architects that go down to programmers and handlers. And then that goes down to your world leaders. And then that gets then put down for your intelligence agencies and then down to the people. So the actual construct itself is, although it's quite big, it can be. And that went down. Once I was able to see behind or piercing the third density, I was able to see behind that, and I was able to get this kind of information out to the people because they play both sides to the middle. And so what they'll do is they've got an ability to make people believe that it's actually one thing when it's actually another, and they're actually really good at doing that programming side of it.
So the reality is that the Pope yes. Francis. So. And I'm sure you're familiar with the prophecies of St. Malachi, yes?
I am very familiar with the 112 prophecies and him being the St. Peter and him flogging the church at the end, which is supposed to be coming. And I may be able to share something with you in regards to that. But the priesthood teach what's called futurism. And that's basically getting people's mind programmed to an event that's to come that's not yet here. And so they all know things are not set in stone. So what they do is they put so many programs out there, trauma-based programs, and basically people to bring it into reality. And that's this trauma-based, fear-based programming that they actually do. And they're actually masters at doing that and manipulating the people.
Well, and of course, we're coming literally right up to one of those periods because
correct.
In 2 days' time, we enter the Shemitah. And so the period of the 23rd of September through to the 28th has enormous significance for those who are working their magic or think they're working their magic.
Yes, and that was the thing. And I like the fact that you put think working their magic. It only works based on people not knowing. It's only those that don't know, unfortunately, they get trauma-based program. But the rest of us who are awake and see what's coming are doing things in a completely different mindset. And so I don't look at things in a negative way in the terms of what they're trying to do in terms of programming everybody traumatized-wise, because that's all a falsehood, as I already know. So, yes, it is the Shemitahs around. And I'm also aware of tomorrow being the autumn solstice. And the harvesting of the souls, the grim reproduction the priests have, and then the Shemitah period, and also the blood moons come in, I think, the tetrad moons. And so a lot of being the grids on the planets, the ley lines on the planets, and the energy that the planet has, and they're using that through these churches and all over. And they're using that to try and control everybody through this fear-based vibration programming that they're using. Now that can only work, as you said, if people allow it to program them. And for me, I just look at it and I just laugh because I know that's not going to work on me anymore. It's a complete fraud.
Absolutely. And you say, hey guys, bring it on. Whatever it is that you think you're going to do, bring it on. Because we've also got the collider being switched on, and a lot of conjecture that. They're trying to open a portal into the other realms. I must confess that, if I was living in the area above the Hadron Collider, then I think that I'd probably be looking to get out of there, just on the basis that for these individuals, who knows what it is that they're going to bring about. Hopefully their own destruction. And then humanity can get on with the real task of building a sane civilization, as opposed to having to deal with the BS driven by the Black Pope. So the Black Pope is, of course, the guy who sits at the head of the Jesuit pyramid. And interestingly, right now, of course, we have two Black Popes, because we have the incumbent, but we also have the only Black Pope ever in history to have resigned whilst in office. And of course, that was a guy, I keep wanting to call him Clovenhoof, but his name is actually Colvin Hoch. So call it a hunch, but I think that he's also pulling the strings behind the scenes. But on Saturday, you also talked about the Jesuits and their manipulation within Syria, and you made reference to this gentleman, Father Paolo Dal Oglio.
Yes. Yeah, the priests, like I said, the priests are very clever at getting what they want. As I said, they use again the dialectic, and they've got a habit for playing both sides to the middle. Now, the way this is done is they have teams of what's called alumni trained. And basically what they'll do is a missionaries into a country. So basically what they've done is all these corporations all these countries are not actually countries, they're all corporations. So they'll have a central bank, have a temple that are all run by the priesthood. And so what happens is put in around leaders like Assad.
Hang on one second. Hang on one second, Del. Hang on one second, because we're having a bit of a problem with the link, and you're breaking up a bit. Okay, let's try that again. So take us back to the top. We were talking about Paolo Dall'Oglio, the Jesuit priest in Syria.
Yeah, basically the priesthood and every in it today are actually all corporations. So they're not real countries, they're all corporate fictions. And so the priesthood put in all puppets people. So what ends up happening over it is the priesthood every so often.
Hang on, Del. Look, I think let me just see. Can we do? Is it possible to do it without video? We're just going to look and see if we can just set up a voice link, because the video may be sucking the bandwidth here, and that's what's causing the audio to break up. So it might be appropriate if we just try it with audio only. Bear with us a second, Del. Okay, see what we can do. Let's go with that. Right, sorry. Back from the top again.
All right. Am I clear?
Yes, clear? That's good. That's good.
All right, let's try this. I knew they'd do this anyway, because they never like that's another thing as well. They'll always attack you when you're putting out the real truth, but you get used to it. Yeah, basically, all the countries are all corporation soles, and they're all corporate fictions, and they've got a central bank. They'll have a church and temples, and what they do is they put the leaders in place of these corporation soles, but periodically they like to change up the leadership to make sure they can keep a stranglehold. So what they normally do is they'll send, if a leader's not doing as he's told, like Gaddafi with the golden dinar, whether it's Moriega or whether it was leaders who don't do as they're told or don't toe the line on any particular issue, what they'll do is they'll send in missionaries. And these missionaries have a responsibility to take the leaders out and put somebody else in their place. And that's essentially what you were seeing with Assad at the moment. So the missionary was sent basically to get rid of Assad, and that was his job. And that's what the ISIS is doing, is they're playing both sides to the middle.
So, and of course, ISIS, basically they are effectively operating on behalf of the Kabul, the US, Israel, and the UK. and they are effectively ethnically cleansing Syria. And of course, the irony here is that the Jesuit send in the priests to create the instability, knowing full well that the Christian population is actually going to be murdered.
Yes, that's because it suits their ultimate goal, because they have to play both sides to the middle. Keep in mind that they're actually in pre-trib. They basically, I know they can't do it, but basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to play out Revelation. That's essentially what they're trying to play to a script in Revelation. And that means that the Islam has got to rise up. And this is what's part of that immigration thing that's going on in Europe at the moment, is they're sending the Muslims across because they want all this, everybody divide and conquer. They want everybody warring against each other so they can set all this war on. So you're right. They're going to, they send the missionaries in. The missionaries will cause the trouble, and then they will make sure that what they do is they play both sides to the middle. They cause absolute chaos, and then after that chaos, they'll offer the order, and that order is the same control that they need. That's essentially what they're doing.
And let me bring up here this slide, because you talked also about the Knights of Malta and the Swiss Guard and their relationship with the Jesuits.
Yeah, this basically, you've got the Pope wears the Triple Crown, and that Triple Crown represents three corporations. You've got Washington, D.C. being one of them, or District of Criminals. You've got City of London Corporation, and then you've got the Vatican, which is a spiritual arm, the London being a financial arm. Now, they do things in squares because they took the 33 degrees knowledge from what's called Hecupta. Today, you know it as Egypt. It's not. Its ancient name is called Hecupta. And that 33 degrees of knowledge, or the Templars that took from Hecupta, that knowledge they're using to, that science they're using to control the planet with. So basically, this hidden hand that nobody wants to talk about, so the Pope has all this power is in Switzerland. So all the power passes through London to Switzerland, and all the gold, most of the gold in the world is in Switzerland, and that's why the Pope has the actual guard. And if you look at a lot of the symbolism, you'll see the Maltese Knight of Malta cross in there that's also represented in the Switzerland flag. Well, a lot of people, and that's why the Swiss always get away during war times, because they keep the country mutual, because all the world's wealth and the leaders are based in that country. That's also the union in Bern, in Switzerland, and everywhere. That's why everywhere has easements and postcodes, because it's under the Curia, under the Templars. So every corporation is under the Curia, based in Switzerland.
And you drew this comparison. You talked about the 8 pillars, which are the symbols of the financial
Octagon.
Control system, the octagon, and the relationship here between the Bank of England and the Bank of Switzerland.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the Octagon Templars. So all the knowledge that is derived from the Templars, and that's why the London's got the Inner Temple and the Temple Bar in London, and that's one of the few sovereign so-called lands on the planet, along with the land in Switzerland. So what they do is they have these temples that they have, and you can see it. The Bank of England got the 8 temples. 8 pillars in front of it, and so was the Capitol Hill in USA. So what I've been able to do is look at all these temples and symbolism through the cult of Saturnalia and the cult of Baal, and that shows where they derived their power back from Hecupta, or Egypt, when they got the 33 degrees of knowledge. And so they build these temples to represent that knowledge that they've got, and that to show that's how they control.
So the Jesuits are, their god is whom?
Baal. Their gods are these. I don't want to get too esoteric, but their gods are these reptilians and Baal. But this goes back to the Anunnaki, ancient Sumer, and back to those Hebrews who come from Nibiru, and so it goes back to there. They can trace all their bloodlines back to there, and that's why they also do only certain mixing. That's why certain families mix with certain families only with these rhesus negative that they've got, that they use, and that's why they mix with only certain people only, because that's what the so-called Aryan race was about. It's about keeping this particular bloodlines pure, that they refer to as rhesus negative.
And we talked about this last week. This is the Codenhav Calgary agenda. which is being played out here, the deliberate creation of mass migration disguised as refugees to accelerate the mixing of the bloods. And as Kulanov Calgary himself said, that would then leave the opportunity for the European aristocracy and those who he referred to as the spiritual elite, which actually he was referring to the Khazars. But the spiritual elite and the European aristocracy would protect their bloodlines whilst making sure that all other bloodlines were totally mixed.
Yes, that's correct. It's a form of dysgenetics, epigenetics, and eugenics. This goes back to the Genome Project when they studied all the women and took all the from women and found out they all come from the original woman out of the continent of today, as Africa, which it's not, because that's named after Pope Leos Africanus. So most even the continents are named after them. They've been playing with every kind of system they've got through this Gregorian calendar, which is a complete sham and a complete fraud. So they are mixing, they're attempting to get everybody to mix all the bloods so they can cause all chaos, but they're keeping themselves what they refer to as pure. So yeah, you're right. Now the Khazars that you refer to, you made reference to the Khazars, those who you call Jews that are not, and this is not, and I'm not, there's nothing to anti-Semite, because I cannot be anti-Semite, because there's no J in Hebrew, because it's J in Hebrew. So you cannot be an anti-Semite. It's the language that they speak is Yiddish, and we all know that it's Y, not J, because the priesthood created J in 1666 or 1665. So basically, the Khazars are the Ashkenazi Khazarians, and so the Khazarians are now what you call today's Jews. So the Patagonia, which today not, it's another corporate fake name for it. It's called Patagonia, and basically they were going to they're trying to claim Jew as a nationality, and they wouldn't let them off the ships, because what there is, the Khazarians or the Ashkenazi Khazarians knew the truth about what really happened in the Second World War and all these bloodlines, and they were going to tell the truth about the real history and about what was really going to happen. So what the Rothschild and them in this country did was attack the Palestinians and created ISIS around Israel, and that's what was really. So it's for decades, this illusion. So they're not Jews; they're actually Ashkenazi, and so you're absolutely right with the bloodline thing there. That's what's really been going on, and so that's part of the revelation that they're trying to play out now with the so-called Jews who are not Jews, and it even tells you in Revelation that they're not the real Jews.
And very few people actually realize that it is this belief system that holds 9/11 so sacred, which is why we have seen so many critical events actually carried out on 9/11. I mean, whether it's the coup in Chile, the overthrow of Salvador Allende, where obviously 9/11, as it is in terms of known to us from 2001. But you relayed this very well on Saturday, talking about the 9/11 in the Saturnalia cult and the significance here. And of course, we have it in Roman numerals 9 and 11. You want to talk us through this?
Yeah, they're very again, symbol. The thing about symbol allows them to program the minds of the people. Most of your churches are built on the world's ley lines, which has certain power grids, and these power grids are what influence the souls that are on this planet, and so they have to control the souls on this planet by using the grids. So these rituals are used for the cult Saturnalian Baalism to program the souls into what's called into your root chakra, which puts you into a state of consistent trauma-based programming. That energy is what they feed off, and that energy is they use to keep this temporal or temporal power that the Pope uses. That's why they've constantly got you in a fear-based programming. So that's what 9/11 is based around. That's around the cult of Molech and these fourth and fifth dimensional entities that they're actually serving reptilian-like in nature. And a lot of this is based on the fact that these beings like to feed off very low vibrating energy, and so that's why they do the rituals and have everybody constantly based in a traumatized based system.
So actually, somebody floated the idea across because they know that I've been very active in trying to raise awareness of the dangers associated with hydraulic fracturing. And somebody made the suggestion or asked me the question actually, and they said, "Ian, did I think that the hydraulic fracturing agenda, the agenda to literally blast open the deep geology, was this part of an effort to disrupt the ley lines?"
Yeah. This is what concerns about. They're trying to, from what I've looked in, what we've been looking into, they're basically they're trying. If you look at 666 on CERN, you can see it. They're all symbolism. They're trying to basically, if you look at Revelation, they're trying to open. They're trying to bring in some sort of very dark dimensional, very low dimensional entity that's gonna come through this portal, and it's almost like a beast. That's what I refer to it as, like a beast. Then this entity is going to be able to enter lots of people by doing this ritualistic abuse of people. That's why they keep doing this. So the fracking is to open up what's called the abyss. So they're preparing the ley lines so that the earth itself is in a traumatized state. The earth's our terror is just like we are. It's sentient. It's very aware of what's going on, just as we are. And so when they're doing this fracking, the earth's I can't say it now, hyaluronic acid that it uses, basically the oil, to keep the tectonic plates supple. It's like the earth's blood. It's equivalent to the earth's blood is oil. And so what they're doing is when they're fracking for all this, it upsets the earth's vibration, because the whole planet is vibrating on a high level at the moment, because there's certain frequencies that are coming onto the planet that happen to raise the vibration of the planet, because there's a lot of change going on right now, which will force these priests to start bringing, will force the veil to be unlifted, so that people begin to see the truth about what's really been going on this planet for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. So the fracking element of this is so that they can try and keep the planet on a low vibration, and that's why they're trying to do the fracking, because it puts the earth into distress, just as the way they do traumatized ritualistic programming on us, the same way they do that on the earth, and it has the same effect.
So on a multiple level, I mean, literally, yes. Obviously on the physical, empirical, material reality, then obviously the fracking agenda needs to be shut down because of the threat of contamination to the fundamentals of life, the water, the soil, correct, and the air. Yes. But of course, it also needs to be shut down because of this attack on the stability of the planet. So when we look at everything that's going on around the world right now, obviously, we are looking at a deeply socio-psychopathic agenda. The behavior of those who know that they are implementing this, of course, is just not human, because it's completely devoid of any compassion. So in your opinion, Dale, what is their motivation? What is their primary motivation for pushing this destructive agenda?
Yes, if you allow me to go esoteric, I may push the bar just a little bit more. Well, basically, they've got fourth and fifth dimensional entities that are down here, as well as third dimensional. I know Carl Nudis has spoke on the Homo sapiensis beings that are also here, that are in the Vatican. Basically, the souls here on this planet are very unique here, and we've got very unique emotions. But basically, this planet is it's one of the living libraries in the universe, and the life forces are very diverse here. You've got amphibians, you've got reptilians, you've got mammals, and you've got insectoids. There's not many places like that in the universe. We're quite unique down here to have so many species on one particular third density. But the energy that's here is quite unique, and basically the priesthood who serve these reptilian and these low dimensional entities that they're serving, basically have got to leave here. From what I've been looking into, they've got to leave here because it's time for it's at this particular point on Terra, the planet is choosing to move consciousness from where it is at the moment to a higher level. And so because that's been decided by other beings more benevolent, the frequencies, the positive frequencies have been put into the planet, and with the veil being unlifted, the people who the priesthood serve basically don't want what they want to do is they're using with CERN using and Brookhaven and other high level computing. They're trying to use what's called hyperdimensional physics, and they want to ultimately, and it might be 200 years from now or so, be in place to try and pull this planet from where it is now into another universe. It sounds crazy, and as far as I'll go, I'm not without going too far off the being track, and use this planet as food like it is now, but in their constellation. So a lot of these beings come from like Zeta Reticula, Draco, and Orion, and they want to use this planet as food, but they can't do that with the souls on here or the humanity down here. So this is what Agenda 21 is all about, and which is why they're trying to wipe out humanity. So the way they're going to do that is through the fracking, like you're saying, through mass murder, through the wars that they're doing, through the trauma-based program, through the chemtrailing. So they're sort of trying to wipe humanity off. So ultimately, to keep the planet on a low enough vibration, because the planet will rise its vibration with the consciousness of the souls that are on this planet. So we're helping to do this by being awake and doing things and saying things and being a part of being active. Whereas these reptilians that they're serving, these other beings that they're serving, want to keep this on a low vibratory level, so that ultimately we can be thrown off of here, and then they can use the Earth as food for other purposes. As far as I'll go without being too esoteric.
Okay, no, that I think that's an excellent summary. And so it could be argued that every time that these socio-psychopathic entities try and accelerate their agenda, it actually serves our purpose as well, because it has the effect of actually waking up a few more people to the reality. So they're in a bit of a quandary, really, aren't they? Because they're trying to accelerate their agenda, but every time they accelerate their agenda, they increase the number of people who see through that agenda. And of the people who see through it, a significant number at some point actually take the conscious decision to get involved and try and bring about the change that we know we need to see, and to shut these entities down. Yeah,
and I'll say this now, I'll agree with you. For everything that they're doing that's negative and wrong, it's polarity. It's a lot of polarity in the Cabalian. You've got positive and negative energy flowing. It's one energy, it's just flowing in different ways. And what we are doing, and what other beings that are very benevolent on the planet and off-world, as well as in the solar system, because there's a big battle in the solar system going on as well. The whole vibration energy is being changed. And so when they shift something, the universe says, hang on a minute, for every cause there's an effect. And so as long as we stay in honor, and we honor and be active, tell the truth, bring the truth, that we do our bit as well as raising the vibe and helping the planet raise up. So every time they do something, for every cause there's an effect. And we need to be making sure that we do more effective, active, to push back that negative. And the more we do more of that actively, in terms of thought process, in terms of these talks, in terms of meeting people and spreading information out, the more that will neutralize the negative aspect of what they're doing.
And getting involved. I mean, because obviously, as we discussed at the weekend, visualizing the changes that we want to see, in whatever way one does that, but visualizing the changes, that doesn't necessarily mean that people have to sit into formal meditation, but just to project that vision without having an existential attachment to it, because that actually may be limiting the outcome, because the outcome may be more incredible, more marvelous than we could even begin to imagine, because of our limited perspective whilst we're locked down here in this particular reality. But more and more people are getting involved. I mean, I hear people say, we are the 99%. But, I would observe that we're not the 99%. We're probably just the 3 or 4 or 5%. But nonetheless, that's a lot more of us than there is of them. So the reality is that in all probability, 90-something% of people will not get involved. It's not their time. They're not here for that. They're here to simply experience third dimensional reality. So, if you like, the battle is between the less than 1% who think that they have the support of the beings behind the Saturnalia regimes, and obviously their acolytes. But they do what they do in many cases through fear or for reward. Whereas what I find is that people who are working within our community, generally they do it because they believe it to be necessary to pass on a legacy that, we could be proud of, as opposed to a legacy that, forces us to hang our heads in shame for future generations.
Yeah, and that's why the consciousness is on the planet, because there's not many of us. And even if you look at the film in The Matrix, there weren't many that woke up, but those that knew. And like I said, once you get to this, it's like I keep saying to everybody, now I know the real truth. You can never lie to yourself. You can't turn back. So the path you've now chosen, you know that path, and you now go forward that path. And I was saying to you earlier, you're going to face the keepers of the gates. They are the gatekeepers. They used to hold all the doors and keys. And at some point, you're going to have to go up against them. And that's the truth. And I agree with you. So you have to be physically active as well as being spiritually active. You have to have everything. You have to have a holistic approach to this to make a complete change. And I absolutely agree with you on that particular 110%.
Well, the great thing is for me, and it was evident at the event in Leeds, the spectrum of ages across the around the venue. A few years ago, the average age of people coming to an event like the one on Saturday would have certainly been 50 plus. But there was a lot of young people there at the event on Saturday. I mean, there was no, in my opinion, from looking around the room, there was no age group that was dominant. It was a wonderful spread. I mean, there was a few youths there, but there was a wonderful spread, right from late teens, early 20s, right through to people who, were in their 60s, 70s, and maybe even older. And this is wonderful to see, and it's great. I have a sense that you're probably a bit younger than me, Del. I've literally just entered my 60th journey around the sun. But it is great to see so many people from different backgrounds, from different age groups, different demographics, all rising to this challenge and all operating, in their own way and getting the message out in their own way. And this is, really what is so important. So, Del, hey, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening and riding with us through the drama of actually getting the show on the road, as it were. I don't think you've got any other talks planned at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm kind of just chilling out at the moment. I'm just glad I've had the chance to do the bit of talking that I've been able to do and send that vibration out there and physically doing things and being active and being involved. And I agree with the energy of the souls that were there. That's the key thing. Like you said, it wasn't about demographic. It was the fact that people knew that truth, and that truth can never be taken away. So once you're already on a path where you've got to start being active, you've got to be involved. You are that change that you want to see in the world by being it. You're by doing it, by being part of that. You are that change, and you are that energy, and that vibration. You take around with you wherever you go. And these people see that, and that's what they fear. They fear that they can't lock that consciousness down. That's what they've been trying to do all this time, is to lock off the higher consciousness. And if they know they can't lock off that's what we use in order to defeat them.
Absolutely.
By the higher consciousness, that inner knowing.
Absolutely. So, Del, if people do want to get in contact with you and invite you to share your insights, how would they get hold of you?
Yeah, I haven't decided I'm going to do that because it's the first time I've ever got to do a show with you. So they can get in touch with you and we'll...
Okay, get in touch with me. That's a good idea. Okay, Del, thank you so much. And don't run away. We'll have a short chat at the end of the show. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to give you your first opportunity to get this out on the wider medium of YouTube. Right,
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, building on that theme, as we touched on, we are entering into the period of the Shemitah, and I see even the mainstream media, such as the Daily Mirror, are running articles and predicting various prophecies, or putting forward various prophecies about what this period will bring. And of course, they're all negative. Well, of course, as we've been discussing, nothing is negative. It absolutely has a positive, and it's up to us to turn it into the positive. So I'm in Hull with the Truth Use group on the night of Shemitah, Wednesday, 23rd of September. So if you want to see what I perceive to be the beginning, the new beginning that we're helping to bring about collectively, then come along to the New Walton Club in Hull on Wednesday evening. And then 2 other upcoming events, one on Sunday. Now, I'm going to take a bit of a punt here because originally we were going to charge an entrance for this event, but I think this event in Scotland is absolutely crucial. The subtitle of the event is Scotland Becoming a Totalitarian Police State? And we'll be presenting the evidence that suggests that Scotland is becoming the most surveilled, the most controlled society in Western Europe, far beyond perhaps what most Scots believe. Now, with this event, we'll be at the Thistle Hotel. It will be a free event, running from 11 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. in the afternoon. 3 presentations from Pippa King, looking at the surveillance technology that's being tried out in Glasgow and Edinburgh in readiness for a rollout across the UK. Mel Kelly, who will be joining me on Fracking Nightmare at 9 o'clock this evening, providing we can get the technology to work. And we'll be talking about, or Mel will be talking about underground coal gasification and Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP Treasury in selling off Scottish water. And this is something that very few Scots are aware of. And then myself bringing up the rear, as it were. And then a similar event in London on Sunday, October the 11th, with Ken O'Keefe and Pippa King. And I'm pleased to also announce that Brian Gerrish will be participating in this event on Sunday the 11th of October. It will be in central London. The event, the venue is yet to be confirmed, but that will be a free event. So this is, I'm calling them AV free, alternative view free. So if you're up in the Scotland Central Belt area and can join us this coming Sunday at the Thistle Hotel in Glasgow, you are very welcome. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks very much.